I just set up our recording, so everyone please be aware we are recording and we will play this back, which is kind of a good segue. We're playing this back in the ICABA World community. The ICABA World Network that I mentioned to you is a trusted community that provides Black professionals and entrepreneurs globally an opportunity to connect, collaborate, and build relationships that enhance your wealth and also your leadership. And so you may have heard us say that the Black Professionals Month, while it will run throughout the month of October and create a focus, around the world for Black professionals, we extend that through the ICABA World community where we stay connected and we're able to continue to build relationships that really help us to grow our career and our businesses. And so the recordings we're going to do will be provided to you, as on the ICABA World community. You can join the ICABA World community for free. And as a matter of fact, there is a chat link now. If you take a look in the chat, you'll see ICABA World community and click on that link. So a number of our members have called me or texted me from Friday and said, Hutch, be sure you tell everybody up front where they can get to ICABA World community. So I appreciate them reminding me of that. And so again, this is really not a one-off in terms of the Black Professionals Month. Black Professionals Month really is geared for us to be able to come together and build a trusted community that lasts 24/7, 365. So let me go ahead and also get into our session for today. It's all about servant leadership. And we have sessions that are going to run through the end of the month. And so we've got 4 sessions. So one of the day is going to be what is servant leadership. And then we're going to talk about servant leadership models next week. And the following week will be about servant leadership best practices. And then the last one is going to be very interactive because it's going to be my plan for becoming a servant leader. And so that doesn't mean my plan, that means your plan for becoming a servant leader. So, so as we go through this, one of the first things I want to say to you is take notes. Secondly, we will have this session in our ICABA World community. We have mastermind groups in our community, and there is a mastermind group in the community for Black Professionals Month. And once we get past the month, we're going to break them out into different groups. But up until through the month of October, everything that we put into the in terms of the sessions that we record will go into the Black Professionals Month mastermind group so that you would have an opportunity to go back and relook, or if you missed something, to be able to catch it that way. Okay. And it doesn't cost anything for you to join that ICABA World community either. So, that you'll be fine. You'll also find out some other things, but this is not a commercial for that. And so we'll do that at a different time. So let me jump right in. And I've got a couple of videos that I want to start with. And let me load that up. Give me just a second.
When you figure out the why you do what you do, God will show you how. Why is always more important than how. Why do you do what you do? I wonder how many of you would have come to this conference, or how many of you would have come to the simulcast if we had advertised it, learning to serve like Jesus. You see, I find a lot of people wanting to lead and very few people wanting to serve. And in the servant leadership part, we all want to focus on the second part. We know that we don't want to just be leaders. We want to be servant leaders, but let's get the servant part out of the way and let's get to the leadership part. Okay? And I want to tell you, if you will focus on the first part, the servant part, God will take care of the second part. Okay? Just focus on serving. And if you will focus on the serving part, the more you serve, if you serve a few people, you will have a little influence. If you serve a lot of people, you'll have a lot of influence. If you serve a great number of people, you will have great influence. You don't have to worry about the leadership part. Focus on the serving part. And if you get that part, God will take care of the rest.
All my life, I've spent teaching leaders and doing leadership. And I've seen it evolve over now at almost 70 years of age. I've seen it evolve over the last 45 years. I mean, when I started leadership, it was kind of like top down. You got a person at the head and everything flows down to the rest of the people. And then maybe we ought to bring some people to help that leader as a worker team. And then it evolved to, well, maybe we need a leadership team, more than just one leader, to have different gifts and different abilities and different strengths to complement one another. And I've watched leadership evolve. But there's one part of leadership that always works, regardless of time, regardless of culture. That's servant leadership. Servant leadership is when I serve you and add value to you to the extent that your success I consider to be my success. That's what servant leadership's all about. I had a person one time say, well, John, this servant leadership stuff, how do I know that I'm really got this servant leadership stuff? I said, well, it's very simple. It won't bother you to serve other people. If it bothers you to serve other people, you don't have it down yet. But the moment that you just really understand that your win is my win and your success is my success, and what can I do for you and how can I add value to you and how can I serve you, all of a sudden you begin to win the day in this area of servant leadership. And here's what I know. Servant leaders have the most loyal people around them, because people see beyond their leadership skills, they see their heart. And when you have good leadership skills, but you have it complemented with a great heart to add value to people, that's where you get the loyalty of your people and your team. You're the kind of person they'll work for and they'll die for, because they know that you would do the same for them. Servant leadership. Beautiful words, beautiful life.
So as we take a look at servant leadership, there are really 10 principles, and let me get the Zoom out of my way so I can open this up. So as we talk about servant leadership, one of the questions I said we were going to talk about first is just what is servant leadership? And servant leadership is really, some people describe servant leadership as leading with love. As you heard discussed with Rick Warren and also with John Maxwell, servant leadership is a relatively new model of leadership versus our traditional model, which is pretty much a top-down model of leadership. And one of the things that I have practiced over the years, and I think as a result of probably kind of an intuitive practice that was instilled in me by my parents, both of them very strong leaders, and both of them very focused on helping others and very focused on empowering others. My father was an entrepreneur and business leader. As someone who early days was very knowledgeable about finance, in the late 60s and early 70s. He assisted folks as an officer with the SBA who were looking for small business loans. He went on to run an organization called Economic Development Now, and also became the first chairman of the first Black bank in the state of Kentucky, where I'm from. My hometown is Louisville, Kentucky. My mother was a social worker who went on to become a director there in the Office of the Social Services for the state of Kentucky, started a charity called Clothe a Child and Food for the Elderly. And so in my home, I saw leadership practice both in terms of family, but also in terms of profession, and also in terms of civic leadership. And my parents used to always talk about, to whom much is given, much is required, for we are our brother's keeper. And I watched my dad whenever he had a chance to pour into a young person who demonstrated that they really wanted to grow and that they were eager to be successful. He always made time for him or them. It was a fairly regular occurrence that after Sunday dinners at my home when I was a boy, that somebody would show up, and sometimes a couple of people would show up in the afternoon to kind of seek my dad's guidance and counsel. And so being modeled for me during that time was what is I now know to be servant leadership. Intuitively, as a result of how I grew up, one of the things that I learned that was going to be important in the success of my business And I spent 10 years in the retail business in terms of my own company. And I had a very strong focus on enhancing and empowering my team because I realized right up front that a big element of our success was going to be how we treated our customers. And we did not just want our customers to be satisfied, because you see, a satisfied customer will go just about anywhere. Our goal was to create raving fans as customers. And you don't create a raving fan just by being ordinary. One of the things that I tell people all the time to bring that whole ordinary versus extraordinary perspective. And I'm going to stop sharing just for a second to be able to see you guys as I say this. And so one of the things that going from ordinary to extraordinary that everybody tends to relate to, I'm sure Pauline, Tracy, Johnny, Denise, you have something that you wear that almost anytime you wear that particular outfit, somebody comments on it, okay? And it's happened enough that you know that, this now becomes the outfit when you want to be, impactful and notice that you wear that particular outfit because you know that it's something that for whatever reason, that people always comment on it. And so the point being is that when there is something that is extraordinary, whether it's good or bad, people comment. Now, it doesn't mean that anything else that you wear all the other times, there's something wrong with it. It just means that it's okay. So it doesn't, if you will, elicit a comment. So to have a raving fan, whether you are in retail, whether you are in technology, whether you are in banking, one of the things that you have to do is to deliver a level of service that makes that person say, wow, that was significant. We've all been into a store and bought things where the salesperson was either non-existent or somewhat apathetic, even though they were standing with you, but they weren't with you in the moment, or they bugged you, or this salesperson actually really seemed like they knew what they were talking about, and they were providing you with insight into what you were thinking about buying, and they provided you with a level of empathy that made you actually feel that they were truly concerned about you getting the right product or service that you needed at that time. I would suggest that that last person is the one that you probably bought from. That last person is probably the one that you would buy from again. That last person is probably somebody that you would refer. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why it's nice to have you guys on camera. And I'm not, hey, Pauline, keep driving, and Tracy, but looking at your cars and not being able to get any feedback, nonverbal sometimes is a challenge for us as speakers doing these webinars and so on and so forth. Okay. Because I don't know whether or not you've nodded off, went to the bathroom, or you're really enjoying what I'm saying. So I'm just sharing with you as we think about how the other person on the other side of the camera may be, if you will, operating. So anyway, my point being, as I said about that salesperson, the impact of when someone does something that speaks to you, when they are concerned about you, when they are trying to provide you with something that you really need, creates a rapport. It creates a relationship that you value. That's part of what servant leadership is all about. The traditional style of leadership is not about you, the person that's being led, the follower, the member of the team. It's only about you to the extent that you do what you're being told to do. But it has no real concern about whether or not you're growing, whether or not you are feeling fulfilled in your job role and your responsibilities. There isn't a focus on that. And that's one of the biggest differences as it relates to servant leadership and our traditional top-down styles of leadership. Servant leaders seek to serve the people who are on their team that are following them. Traditional leaders seek to be served by the people on the team and those folks who are following them. I'm gonna give you another example. So I talked about when I was in the retail business, and this was an example of servant leadership. And honestly, at the time, I didn't know it was. First thing is, I knew that in order for my customers to become raving fans, that my staff would have to create that level of service that would make them a raving fan. Well, logic told me that if I want the customers to be raving fans, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea for the employees to be raving fans. It'd be a whole lot easier for them to convey that authentically, okay, if they truly felt like they were being treated well by the company, if they were receiving the tools and the training that they needed to be successful, and that they were being reinforced with some positivity, you know, from management. So we set about making sure that that happened. And I'm gonna give you one examples of where that happened. So I had video and retail stores at the time. And so we had 3 stores, and we really never had a chance to train people because our stores were open from 10 till 9 on Monday through Friday, and then 10 to 11 on Saturdays. So there wasn't a whole lot of downtime in terms of being out of the stores, except for Sundays. So once a month, we did training and meetings on Sundays with our team. This one particular meeting, as we always did, we'd ask them, hey, anything, any questions, comments, you know, that's going on that you need either guidance on, help with, or whatever it is. And this person raised their hand and just kind of hit me between the eyes with a comment. And they said, Mr. Hutchison, you know, you talk to us all the time, you know, about, you know, our attitude and how we engage with people and being upbeat and so on and so forth. I'm like, yeah, exactly. You're right. She says, but when you come into the store, you make us nervous. And so I'm like, okay, can you tell me more? Because I'm like, I got to come into the store. So what is it about me coming into the store besides the fact that I'm the owner that makes you nervous? They said, well, when you come into the store, you look like you're upset. And I said, really? You know, and then I looked around and I saw these heads nodding, okay, in the affirmative. And so, as like any other human being, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, wait a minute, you know, first of all, I knew that when I came into my stores, I wasn't walking in generally upset. So I didn't understand, you know, why she said that. I said, well, tell me this, how does that impact you? Okay, you think that I'm upset. They said, well, we think that you're upset, then it brings us down because we get nervous and we get uptight and we start making mistakes because we're uptight. Now the bell really goes off in my head. I'm like, well, you know what, Hutch? It doesn't matter what you think. At this point, it only matters what they are perceiving, okay? A servant leader will respond to this situation in one way. A traditional leader will respond to that situation in another way. So this is the interactive, engaging part of this conversation. Tell me how you think that the traditional leader would respond in this situation. So unmute and let me get somebody to share how you think somebody would respond in this situation as the traditional leader being told that their presence in the workplace, because they felt like that, you know, the leader was upset, created a negative situation for them and make them nervous and uptight. So how do you think the traditional leader should respond in that situation? All right, so nobody unmute themselves. So I'm gonna make you participate. So you know what, don't worry about it. I'm going to cancel, I wanna unmute everybody. Okay, so please folks, unmute, thank you. And so let's get your money's worth here, okay, participate.
I would say a lot of people would feel defensive. Hi, this is Elizabeth Jayona. I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Thank you, Lisa.
Liza
or Lisa?
Lisa.
Lisa, okay.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for putting this on. I just received the email, so I joined a little late.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people would either defenses go up, right? That fight flight reflex kicks in and guards go up. So you become defensive, or you know, you can just decide, oh, that's just the opinion of one disgruntled person.
Very, very good. Very good. Anybody else want to add to that? Well, she said so much good stuff. I'm gonna move to the second side, the flip side of this. So how would the servant leader respond in this situation? I'm gonna call on Miss Johnny. I can see she's got something to say. Go ahead, Johnny.
You know, the interesting thing, I'm looking at Tracy's face and thinking, she knows the answer to this. She just, I think she's a,
Hold
I
up. Well,
think
Johnny,
she's,
with Tracy, you just got called out. So you're gonna participate. Open your mouth. You just got your MPH, and we want to hear from
yeah,
this intelligent, you know, accomplished young lady.
this is a safe space. So yeah.
Sit down, Tracy.
Yeah, I don't know if I have the answer, but I guess a servant leader, you might have to change your approach. Maybe like coming in to the workspace, like, oh, greeting everyone, how are you doing? Something friendly, so that way they know you're not on edge.
Man, Tracy, you just knocked it out of the park, girl. Hey, thank you, Johnny, for recognizing that and calling on Tracy to do that. Thank you, Johnny. I really appreciate that. Because Tracy, you are absolutely right. Okay. And I will tell you, the only thing that you didn't add in it was my own internal analysis. Okay. And I'm going to share one other thing. It's a little bit outside, but it's a very important that comes into this. Another thing that my father taught me, he said, son, the day that you stop being unable to be inwardly critical, okay, will be the day that you stop growing. Okay. He says, son, the day that you stop being inwardly critical, will be the day that you stop growing. And he's was absolutely right. God bless his soul. Now, here's the point I wanted to add in there, Tracy. I had to go inwardly critical. So I was like, man, okay. They're telling me that they can't do their job because when I walk through the door, I'm making them nervous. And I had learned a long time ago what people perceive, okay, for them is true. And that was a premise that I've held pretty much for the most of my life. So I'm like, okay, irregardless of what I think about how I am acting and how I should be perceived, is irrelevant. It's not relevant here. It's only what they're seeing. And Tracy, I did exactly what you did. But let me tell you what I found out. One of the things I've learned about myself is that when I am thinking, or if I've got what I call my, how do I put it? My eye of the tiger, my mission critical face on, people think that I'm upset. I don't know why God made me that way, but he did, and that's it. I have to accept it and deal with it. So what does that mean? Does that mean that, hey, you just accept me the way I am, no matter how I come? Or if I'm going to be a leader, do I become self-aware? Okay, do I become self-aware? And then, if you will, make some modifications, because it's not just about me. Servant leaders are not just about them. Actually, they are about us. And so if my ability to impact you in a positive way is now being compromised because I'm unwilling to be critically aware of myself and make any necessary changes so that I can be more effective and impactful with my staff, shame on me. That's what servant leaders do. So what I did was, Tracy, I figured out, I said, well, why do they think that? Why do they think that I'm upset? And I realized the minute I got out of my car in the parking lot, between there and walking into the store, my brain was doing analysis on everything that I saw. I was looking at the people who were coming in. I was paying attention to security. I was looking at our windows to see if the posters were up. I'm looking inside to see how many people in the store. I'm looking to see how they're being served. I mean, I'm probably going through a checklist of 100 things mentally in my mind that by the time I opened up that door, my brain is on overload, okay? And when my brain is on overload, what I just tell you, I look like I'm pissed off. So to your point, Tracy, what I started doing was when I walked in the door of my stores from that point on, because I had 3 of them, before I went and grabbed that door, it was like, hey guys, how y'all doing? Good to see you. Everybody looks good. I swear, I started doing it all the time. And so I became, if you will, the minute I walked into the door, instead of putting everybody on edge, I actually was putting everybody in a good space. One of the things you have to also remember about being a leader, if you are a humble person, okay, and you're not narcissistic, okay, narcissists think that everybody's just, it's about them, okay? So they're not really worried about how other people are in. servant leaders are always concerned about other people being impacted. So with the case with being that servant leader, you always want to create an empowering environment and attitude of the folks that you're working with. And so what I found was, because there was a certain humility about me, I sometimes would forget that I am the leader. I would forget that my attitude was having an impact on everybody else. You sometimes as a leader forget people are really watching you, and how you carry yourself has a lot to do with how they carry themselves, believe it or not. And you may think that because, you're not egotistical, that, oh, okay, but no, really, when you become a leader, whether it becomes by appointment, election, job title, or you just happen to rise to the top as the cream in a volunteer organization, people are going to follow your lead. And so you got to be sure that when you are leading, that you are leading in the way that you want to be emulated. So now let's go back into the lesson. One of the things I learned in my business was that we used to train people and take them through our operations manual when they first came on board. And we realized that doing it that way and then putting them out on the floor, as we would call it, was not the right way to go, because when we did all the training with them, they had no point of reference. And so what we started doing was giving them some very basics, then putting them on the floor. 2 weeks later, then we would train. Anybody can tell me why we did that?
Context, it allows them to be able to connect the lesson that they're learning in that classroom setting to what they've already seen, experienced, so they can connect it better.
Man, what a heck of a group I got. You guys are just phenomenal, okay? So Lisa she just hit it. So after we started doing that way, and we would go over things that they were being trained on, they had contextual reference to what we were telling them, and it made a whole lot more sense. Before then, it was a memory exercise. They were just trying to remember everything that we told them. And you know what, guys? How much do we really remember when we are being told something? Not that much, okay? But if now they've had the experience, so now that we've had this contextual, hopefully, experience about some of the impacts of servant leadership, now I want to go back and want to go over the 10 characteristics of a servant leader. And hopefully through some of the contextual examples that we've shared here today, it's going to make it even that much more impactful for you as we do that. So give me a second as I share. So now we want to talk about servant leadership and what is it. So as I said, today was to really talk about what is a servant leader. And the servant leader is servant first. It begins with the natural feeling that one wants to serve and they want to serve first. The greatest model of servant leadership was Jesus Christ. One of the things that I want to drive home is that the word servant sometimes throws a lot of people off, because people think of servants as being subservient. They think of servants as being below. They think of servants as being someone without any power or influence. I have a feeling that if I asked you if you felt like that Jesus Christ had any power or influence, you would probably say, yeah, Hutch, he had a lot of power and influence. So let's think about the fact that Jesus Christ's model of leadership is the ultimate servant leadership model. Who else do you know that has been dead for thousands of years and people are still following them? Who else do you know has lived on this earth for less than 40 years and left an impact that people are still following today? So servant leaders, by definition, and the example of Jesus Christ, clearly is the most impactful role and model of leadership that the world has ever seen. Servant leader flips the typical leadership script by putting people ahead of power. Do you think that Jesus Christ put people ahead of power? Absolutely. Why did Jesus Christ come to the earth? He came to serve. Who did he come to serve? He didn't come to serve the powerful. He came to serve those who need to be saved. A servant leader prioritizes the team's growth and well-being. Did Jesus serve growth and well-being? Absolutely. Was his model of leadership a weak model? Was his role and his model of leadership one that just accepted and groveled when people came against him? Absolutely not. Remember when Jesus went into the temple and found the money changers and those folks defiling the temple? He didn't say, oh, that's okay. He threw them out. Servant leaders are not punks, guys, okay? A servant leader puts their own needs and ambition behind. Who else showed a greater ability than Jesus Christ to put his own needs as a human being secondary to his leadership when he died on the cross for us? 10 principles of servant leadership. Listening. You cannot serve anybody if you don't know what they need. Bill Clinton, a lot of things you can say about Bill Clinton, good, bad, or indifferent. But there was something that was a characteristic of Bill Clinton that he was known for. And that was when people engaged with him one-on-one, he gave them their full focus and attention. And people felt like that they were the only person in the room. Imagine how powerful that was as it relates to people feeling that they were being empowered by talking to Bill Clinton. As an example, I think this also came from one time maybe being reminded about the art of listening and not, being distracted and multitasking when people were telling me something. I'm a single dad, and after my wife died, my kids would come into when I first started my business, which was ICABA, I was operating out of my home in terms of home office. And when my kids came home from school, they'd come in and tell me about their day. And early on, I might continue to kind of do something on the computer or write something. Oh, yeah, kind of multitasking. And then pretty quickly, I realized, like, dude, do you know how many kids don't talk to their parents? So the next time they came in, and from that point forward, I stopped everything that I was doing to listen and engage with them. Even when I knew I had a deadline that was, right there hitting me upside the head. And I got to tell you, I think my relationship with my kids is still strong today because I began to practice that. I've also practiced that with people who I am doing business with. Listening is so key. Empathy. A lot goes into empathy, but when it comes to servant leadership, it really gets down to knowing your team, finding out what makes them tick, learning their strengths and weaknesses, how you can let your team members shine and maybe even help them to turn their weaknesses into strengths. I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and Jonathan, I got bad news for you, bro. When it comes to empathy, me and you as males and brothers, sisters kick our butt in this particular area all day long. I can't tell you how many times in my early days of leadership that a female who was on the team or a female manager in my stores would have to tell me about things that were going on with the personality or whatever, with the temperament or characteristics of people that were on my team. Men, we tend to get so focused on the task and the project that we, intuitively focus on that versus the people. And so I had to make a very intentional move to become more focused on the people. And I realized that. I'll give you another example of what I mean. When my first wife died, after being married for 22 years, the mother of my children, literally while we were in the funeral home before the service, I put my hand in her hand and I prayed to God that God would give me the empathy. I didn't use the word empathy at the time because I didn't really realize what I was doing in that perspective. But I asked God to give me something that I knew that she had that I needed more of. And that was to be in the space of my children and be with them. not me trying to pull them into my space and them being with me, because I knew she had a ability, to kind of be with them and be in their space that I didn't have. And now I had to have it because they only had me. What I've learned is that same thing, that same element is important when it comes to leading folks. Empathy, when people feel like that you're really concerned about them, I got to tell you, it takes your leadership to a whole different level. Healing. Some team members may come to you from a previous job where they had a really toxic environment, and you have the privilege to help them heal. It's not as hard as it sounds. Healing sometimes is not about trying to so much fix what they've gone through, but put them in an environment they come to that clearly is different, that is going to help them to be able to heal because of the differences that you have, and making them feel like they're a valued member of the team. And I never forget one time when every Christmas with my retail stores, we would give bonuses to the team. And so there was this one Christmas where somebody said, "Is this all that we get?" And one of my supervisors who worked part-time in our stores and worked full-time on another job, she stood up, she said, "Wait, let me tell you something. I work for this major company full-time, and I work here part-time. Matter of fact, I don't really need this as much as I did a couple of years ago, but I continue to work here because I enjoy being here. And let me tell you something, this other company I work for, they don't give any Christmas bonuses. So before you get all high and mighty as it relates to what you may think that someone else should do, realize that there's something going on here that actually is special. When you have an environment that you've been in where it's not everything that it needs to be, it's amazing when you create a trusted space for people to be in, how different things can come out of that can be empowering. And that was an empowering thing to happen. And it didn't come from me, it came from another employee. Being self-aware. I've already told you about being self-aware. Well, let's just say I was, my staff took the initiative to make me be more self-aware as it related to the situation of what happens when I walked into the store. But at least I can say that once that happened, I did take time to understand, and I became more self-aware. You have to take an inventory. You must know thyself, okay? Before you can lead anybody, actually before you can love anybody and have a really empowering relationship, you must first know you. And so you want to make sure that, you take those times to understand who you are. And when you do your strengths and weaknesses, probably everybody here knows what a SWOT analysis is. Also do the opportunities and threats, because every strength creates an opportunity and every weakness creates a threat. And so you look at those things and figure out who you are and those strengths and weaknesses you have of a person, what opportunities are they putting you in a position for, and what threats are there as a result of who you are that may compromise what you're trying to accomplish. Be self-aware. Sales tactics may come to mind when you think of persuasion. That is not what we're talking about here. Persuasion is when you help somebody to get what it is that they want or what they need. Again, it goes back to listening. You can't know what somebody wants or what they need if you don't listen. If you don't care about other people, you will never listen. If you don't care about other people, when they tell you what they need and what they want, you won't pay any attention to it, okay? So keep those things in mind as it relates to persuasion. Understanding and listening and empathy are very critical to that. Conceptualization. Nobody wants to follow somebody who doesn't have an idea about where they're going. Nobody follows somebody who doesn't know where they're going. Most importantly, where they're going as a vision needs to also be tied to what the people you're asking to follow need as well. People don't want to follow somebody just so that the person who has the vision, who's leading, is going to be good. They need to see that the vision includes something that makes sense for them, that benefits them, and that has value. Foresight. Another key characteristic of servant leadership is taking the knowledge you've learned in the past and applying it to the future so you and your team can continue to grow. Knowing is not enough, you must do. Knowing is not enough, you must apply it to what it is that you're working on. Willing is not enough, you must do. So what your foresight is and applying it is a two-part equation. You can't just do half of it. Stewardship, simply by leading by example. It is your job to set the tone for your team so you don't ask people to do things you wouldn't do yourself. Man, my mama used to teach that all of the time. And so keep those things in mind. Commitment to the growth of your people. If you want your team to grow, you've got to invest in people. One simple way to do that is providing a budget so people can develop the skills by going to places that helps them to grow and helps them develop personally and professionally. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say this last thing about building community and then coming back to commitment to the growth of the community of the people. Your teams have to trust each other, work together to get more done. That's why it's important to cultivate relationships among your team. You've got to help them to build relationships with one another. There are models of leadership that says, well, as long as the team is fighting itself, then it means that they're not fighting me and I can control them. Man, that is such a backward way of looking at things. You need your team working together in harmony in order to really optimize anything that you have. So I'm going to stop sharing this here and I'm going to talk a little bit real quickly, as I said, about the commitment, to the growth of your people. The fact that you guys are here means that you are committed, to your own growth. If you're with a company that's going to be willing to invest in you getting more knowledge, more skills that you can apply to the job that you have, but also makes you more valuable in the marketplace, I would suggest that most of us will value that company and you will want to work for that company longer and you'll want to do more for them as a result of that. So I'm going to stop right here. I know we're close to the end of the hours. Matter of fact, I've run over a little bit. We were supposed to close at 9:45, which I kind of forgot. I forgot we were, well, I take it back. No. Sundays we go to 10. So no, I'm not wrong. We were okay. Our sessions during the week are 45 minutes. So I guess I got 3 minutes. So actually I am still on time. Any questions, comments before we wrap up? Oh man, I don't know what I said, but it caused somebody to drop off. No, guys, I like to have fun with what I do and when I do it. I spend a lot of time working, so I can't be serious all the time. So hopefully you can appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Hutch.
Okay. One of the things that I learned this before, and so I have to remind myself of this. And if this is a delusional comment, just let me live in the delusion because I'll need it to keep my own positive self-image. But there was a time that I was having a webinar meeting, and so after going through, and it was kind of an orientation type session, and explaining to everybody what needed to be done, how we were going to do it, and so on and so forth. And so I said, okay, anybody have any questions? And there was probably like 20 people, on the screen, and nobody had a question. And actually, it made me just a little frustrated because human nature, typically, there's always a question, And so I said, hey guys, come on now, there's got to be somebody that's got a question. And someone chimed in and said, no, Hutch, actually, you covered it so well, we don't have any questions. And I was like, whoa, okay, I never considered that possibility. So, like I said, if I'm being delusional and thinking that I've covered it well today, so therefore you have no questions, let me live in that and I'll be okay. But all honesty, guys, just having just a little bit of fun here. We've got 1 more minute. If anybody has a comment or got a question, please let me know.
Okay, this is Pauline. Pauline. I will say that you did cover it well. So you're not delusional. But also, I think you've given us a lot to think about. So for me, not necessarily saying anything, is just around processing the information that's been shared and the wisdom that has been imparted. So lots of food for thought.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's the greatest compliment that I could get in this scenario. So it really much appreciated. One of the things I will tell you, that's what we do at ICABA. Black Professionals Month is an extension of ICABA, but it comes back to ICABA, as well, because ICABA is a trusted community for Black professionals and entrepreneurs worldwide to be able to come together, connect, collaborate, and build trusted community. Guys, nothing is more important to your success than relationships. Relationship capital beats every other form of capital possible, okay? because anything that you need to get other forms of capital, including money, usually starts with a relationship with somebody. You know, so if you need to borrow some money, you got to get a relationship with the bank. If you need somebody to invest in you, you got to get somebody who's willing to invest in you. Okay. So, you know, we really put a lot of time and effort in helping us to build those trusted, valuable, and productive relationships. I thank you for being here and participating on this Sunday morning. And let God to be the glory for anything that that was done right. And I'll take the responsibility for anything I screwed up, because he gave it to me the right way. So it would only be my implementation if it went wrong. So thank you so much for being here. Have a blessed weekend. And I hope to see you again next Sunday.
Have a good
Bye,
one,
guys.
everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye. Nice to
you.
meet y'all, Tracy, Jonathan, everybody.
You too,
Thank you.
y'all.
You too.
Bye.
Don't forget to go into the chat, and it's at the very top of the chat screen to join the ICABA World community so we can keep these relationships going. So Jonathan and Tracy and Lisa and Pauline and myself and Denise, this is not to be a one-off. So this is to be a relationship building, a trusted community, so these things can continue to grow and the impact will be felt, and we'll pay it forward. Have a blessed day.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye-bye.